Jesus more.
So, my dear brothers and sisters, the gospel today begins with Jesus went up the mountain to pray, and then he spends the whole night in prayer. And what is the outcome of that? I mean, if we look into it, we would realize, we could be asking ourselves a question. I mean, after praying the whole night, was just really that the outcome is that really all about it? You know, if you think about the apostles that he chose, you would have expected that he would choose somebody, a lawyer maybe, somebody who knows something about the law that could defend him, or he could choose somebody who is maybe a Roman soldier who would be able to protect him. He could choose a doctor, or choose an accountant to be able to take accounts of things. I mean, people who would be very substantial, and not just choose these people. I mean, if you come to think about it, if you think about the time of Jesus, these people were really nobodies. 1/3 of them were fishermen. So, meaning, if you think about fishermen, even today, I'm not talking about big commercial fishermen who would use big boats. I'm talking of the local people who are just going to fish to feed their families. You realize that fishermen, even today, fishermen are really people who are not very educated. They really they don't have anything. They just depend on what they get from there, and then they feed their families. And then the next day again, they go out fishing. Many times I've gone to bless the fishing boats there at the fishing port. I just realized, fishermen are not people who would really be considered very high in society, especially those who are still with small boats and all that. So fishermen, we have tax collector, we have all these people who have really, and today we celebrate the feast of St. Simon and Jude. And Simon, we call him as is the zealot. So zealots were people who were preparing to fight the Romans, and they were always walking with their knives or their machetes or weapons to fight the Romans or defend the Israelites. So these were the kind of people that Jesus chose. This is it. And the question would be, Jesus spends the night discerning. He spends the night with the Father, and he spends the night praying to make that decision to choose the 12. The question is this all he could get? Is this all? And in our minds as human beings, these are really not the people you should choose if you really want to have a charism like what Jesus had. I mean, these 12 would be the foundation of the church that is going to expand later on. Are these all? And then you realize that, there is a reason why Jesus chose them. These are people who did not even know the law. Maybe, the Pharisees were complaining because they were moving in the fields on the Sabbath and eating grains. I mean, which Jew is going to do that on a Sabbath? But these were the apostles that Jesus chose to be the foundation of the church, and yet they were this weak. What does that tell us? That the call of Jesus is not a call to be perfect. It's not the call of the big and the most intelligent and the most clever. In fact, in Matthew's Gospel, it says, the wisdom has been hidden from the wise and the clever, and has been shown to little children. What does that mean? The most humble. He chose the most humble. Not because he wants them to be able to do or be perfect, but he chose them to be faithful. So our call is not a call to being perfect. It's not a call to being the best of society or being the best speakers or anything, but the call to be faithful. That was one thing about the 12, that they were faithful till the very end. They were faithful even after the death of Jesus, when they received the Holy Spirit. And this is one aspect of it. The fact that they are humble means that they are ready to receive from Jesus. They are empty, and therefore they require Jesus to fill them up. They know that they have nothing, therefore they depend on God fully, totally, completely. They depend on Jesus, and they believe that this mission is not their own. They are there as the apostles, and they follow Jesus everywhere he goes. They remained faithful to him in spite of their weaknesses. And these, after the resurrection, after they were clothed with the Holy Spirit, they went out to the ends of the earth, and with the power that they had received, not their own power, not their own might, the power of the Holy Spirit that they received, they were able to reach out to the ends of the earth. And because of them, we have received the word up to this moment, 2,000 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus. We have received the message because of their faithfulness. Again, my dear brothers and sisters, it's not about how able we are. It is not about how capable we are. It is not about our own abilities or talents. It is a call to be faithful. How faithful we are to God, to the God who has called us. How close we are, knowing that it is not by our power, it is not by our might, it is by His own Spirit. And it is a reminder for us, especially on the feast day of St. Simon and Jude, who were really, you don't hear a lot about them in the gospel. You don't even hear them speaking in the gospel. Yet we celebrate them today because of the life that they witnessed to, even up to death, giving their own lives for the faith that they professed. So it's not about what we have, my dear brothers and sisters. It's not about what we can do. It's about how faithful are we to the God who is calling us to the mission. Because most of the time we shy off and we say, no, I cannot do this. No, it's not about what you can do. It's not about what you are able to, your talents, but it's about how you can allow God to work through you. And therefore, let us ask God that in this Eucharistic celebration, that we may accept, or we must accept God's call to being witnesses or being channels of His grace to the ends of the earth, following the example of Saint Jude and Saint Simon the Zealot, that God may use us as His channels, and that we may allow ourselves to be used by God to be witnesses of His truth to the world, and that we may truly be a light that many people, seeing our good works, will continue to give glory to the Father.
Kiss us, mother, kiss your children. Bring God's blessings from above. With your mantle blue enfold us in your gentle holy love. See the darkness dissipating, hear the trumpet echoing, Satan's rage